Your gut will give you an idea of how to feel about it, but it doesn't. Your gut is dumb. I went 7.5 years with zero turnover. Your staff is part of your family, whether you like them or not sometimes. Eye care is a primary care, or optometry is a primary care aspect, and the whole family usually comes along. So I would say that one holds true no matter where you are. There is no such thing as perfection. You can only make small changes for the better.
This is Optometrists Building Empires, and I'm your host, Ankit Patel. Each week, we'll explore the journey of practice ownership and leadership in optometry. Join us for insights and strategies from the top minds in our field. This show is sponsored by My Business Care Team. My Business Care Team helps your office increase revenues, reduce costs, and reduce staffing headaches. Let's build your empire together. Today's guest is someone I'm excited to introduce you to. Justin Coleman is the owner and lead optometrist of a 3-location private practice serving central and eastern Kentucky. Originally from Pikeville, deep in the heart of Appalachia, Justin began his career as an industrial engineer in the automotive industry before pursuing optometry. Today, he focuses on delivering high-quality patient care in communities where access to healthcare is limited. In 2017, he's built an efficient, values-driven healthcare organization with experience in practice growth, succession planning, and operational strategy. Justin is passionate about helping independent clinics stay competitive in a rapidly changing healthcare landscape. He also enjoys mentoring emerging doctors and creating systems that empower teams to do their best work. When he's not in the office, Justin loves spending time outdoors, woodworking, tinkering with classic cars, and raising his 3 kids. Justin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, you're a man of my heart. We're both industrial engineers by trade, so I'm looking forward to this.
We talked about that. Yeah, the automotive industry is its own beast.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely took a lot from it, so it was good experience.
Well, let's dig into some of that. So, what was the most important thing that helped you build your empire?
To be quite honest, it's really just sticking to the fundamentals. It is being able to deliver care in a very consistent way. Really, not getting lost in the weeds of all the shiny new trends that are coming into the office. It's really just doing well each and every time and consistently, not just myself, but my staff. And that's gone a long way. The other caveat to that is really it's been focusing on the kids. Because if you win the kids over, you win the mom over. If mom likes you, then she'll bring the rest of the family. So that has kind of been the spur of growth. Mothers in a family are typically the healthcare deciders for the group. So it's really about capturing those sentiments along the way.
I like that. And I'm curious, let's build on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Would that be different? I know practicing in rural areas is a little bit different than cities. Would that be a different strategy you might take in the city? I'm just curious the way you would think about it.
Yes. 2 of my practices are pretty rural, small towns outside of Lexington. I've got one office. It's the smaller and newer one. It is on the edge of Lexington, which is a large town, small city, however you want to call it. It's right in the middle, and it's definitely got a different vibe. I would say it's kind of across the board. If you're, eye care is a primary care, or optometry is a primary care aspect, and the whole family usually comes along. So I would say that one holds true no matter where you are. The certain states require kids to have an exam before they start school, dental and vision. And that has been part of the practice growth, not only a public service, public health initiative, but it gives an opportunity to really get into the family and establishing rapport so that you can be a trusted member of their healthcare team.
Yeah, I like that. And you're not just focused on one, you get a whole family. So you're 3, 4, maybe 5 plus.
Yes.
Yeah. We had one patient who I think had 11 in the family. So yeah.
Sometimes they bring all of them for just
Yeah.
one exam, and then it becomes quite crowded.
Yeah, we had to make sure we had enough seats available. So,
Yes.
um, what'd you run into as problems that you didn't expect growing this business?
Oh my gosh, everything. When you own a practice, I always call myself the chief cook and bottle washer. It is everything comes up from staffing issues, um, things that are just outside of your control, things within the business, difficulties getting loans assessed and all the hoops you have to jump through, as well as making sure just everything is running smoothly. Um, we had our roof blown off a few months ago, a little bit, and I had to have it replaced. That stopped some patient care for a little bit. With the new practice, trying to move into a new building, all of the loan acquisition things, I've had to grow so much and learn along the way that really the thing I've been fighting has been my own lack of experience.
Say more about that. Where do you? Because I mean, look, coming from engineering background, project management background, you see a lot of other stuff that other doctors haven't seen before because you were in the business world. What were some of the things that you even still didn't expect?
There's certain things that just doesn't get brought up in school because it's not an entrepreneurial school. It's an optometry school. Your goal is to come out to be a proficient doctor. The rest you do have to learn along the way. And despite me, my business background and project management in the past, some of the internal mechanisms of banking, I had no idea what it would take to really build a practice or to buy a practice, even how to go about looking at the loans, developing a pro forma, trying to figure out, does this make sense from a financial or numerical standpoint? When to bring on more staff or such as other doctors. There are some formulations out there. It's more than just a gut check. It is a lot of things. You have to run the numbers. You have to see if things make sense financially well ahead of time. Uh, on the legal side of things, how to analyze a lease. And you know, the general advice is just hire a lawyer. How do you know what they're telling you is correct? So there's a
Yeah.
lot of things I've had to learn from the school of hard knocks. I can't say that it's all been easy. I did a cold start in the spring of 2020. My second
Oh,
practice, we opened March 2nd of 2020 and we closed on the 19th. It was, and then we were open for 3 weeks and closed for 7 or 8. Those were scary times. And some of the things that kind of came up along the way that I just did not expect and had to survive through it, which gave me a little bit more insight on how to run the practice a little bit more going in the future to buffer those hiccups.
yeah. That's yeah, that's kind of that had been scary. I think I talked to another doctor who had something similar,
Yeah.
not on this podcast, but a separate
Mhm.
situation. Yeah, that's scary. I'm curious if we can give some nuggets to the audience. What are some of those ratios? Like hiring, how do you know when to hire someone? Or like, what are some of these ratios that you were like, oh wow, that's actually a thing. Like, how do you? I didn't realize that.
Your gut check, just kind of back of the napkin sketch. You can say, well, am I booking out? Am I completely booked out more than, I would say 2 weeks would be your minimum. But, if you're getting into that 3, 4, 5 weeks period, you need some added capacity. The demand is there. It's just a matter of being able to fill it in a timely fashion. Um, my second office is actually facing that right now. I don't have room to expand at the moment, but it is something I'm keeping an eye on because we're booking out about 5 weeks. And so, you do lose a little bit by not investing in that opportunity cost. Purchase price of a practice, there's a lot of deep dives that you can do when looking at a practice to buy, such as buying somebody out or even buying into. Yes, there are professionals, and I would lean heavily on them because, again, that's not what we went to school for. But there's some formulas you can kind of
Yeah.
run a little bit more deeper analysis, but 60% of gross is your, back of the napkin sketch. Um, other th- other things such as bringing on equipment, your return on investment. You know,
Mhm.
it's really looking at your past data. Are the patients I'm seeing, how many of those would benefit or utilize this new piece of equipment? What's my reimbursement? and, divide that or factor that into your purchase price and see how long that ROI, return on investment, is. Ideally, no more than 2 years for most of your small to medium sized purchases, ideally 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, I like that. That's actually super helpful insight, by the way. Most people don't even do that. I think a lot of doctors will just buy equipment and be like, okay, if they build it, if I have it, they will come. I was like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. It's expensive. Yeah. Yeah.
I've made a few of those, decisions as well, and have lived to tell the tale. You know, the new shiny thing always comes out. The reps will promise the moon. That's their job. They are there to sell equipment, not to make sure you're successful with it. So some of that really has to depend on your own personal motivation and what you're able to focus on. If you're bringing something in, focus on it. Don't just set it up, set it and forget it. It has to be, you have to be mindful when utilizing any changes that you're doing so that it doesn't become just one of those blips on the radar.
Yeah. No, I like that. And it's interesting. You talk about that. It reminds me of some of the stuff we did in industrial engineering with queue theory, right? You have 5 weeks of queue. Is like you're going to have queue abandonment, right? People are going to leave, and some people you're going to have a higher no-show rate, right? And so it's a balancing act of like, do I spend the money and see more patients and revenue wise? So I think that there's a whole you could get really down in the rabbit hole, really figuring out the analytics.
It's not hard to do. Like I said, my Excel sheets are numerous. I'm currently in the middle of before this interview, I was working on some things for my couple of my offices, looking for ways of increasing capture rate or at least maximizing our optical sales, and looking for just areas of improvement. And that involves me looking at the sales matrix of our lenses, of our frames, comparing year over year capture rate and seeing what investments I can make. Sometimes that's investment in staff, and your staff is part of your family, whether you like them or not. Sometimes, and
Sounds like family.
sounds like family. They're just like family, or your kids, one of the two. And- but the investment in the staff is making sure that they're able to grow and to do their, have the tools to do their job well. Incentivizing staff goes a long way, and sometimes that's money. And for us, one of the better tools that we've used was paid time off. Most of my staff have young families. They're mothers with young kids, and we know how much time that takes for doctor's appointments, this, that, and the other. So it would be nice to have that level of security for some of them. And so when we do our monthly bonuses, sometimes we'll bonus a half day PTO, 4 hours at a time, just to have a little bit more freedom, because at times that's more valuable than the money itself. So that gives them a little bit of flexibility, and those type of investments do cost money to the practice, to the, bottom line. But, when you set those incentives up to something that's motivating, that does kind of provide ways for them to make their own decisions and to help your practice grow.
Yeah, it also helps differentiate, right? Like,
Yes.
so it's not people value. It's like not everything is equal, right? Not everything can normalize to $1.
Right.
Hour of PTO is, I'll just make $20 versus an hour of pay is $20. But the hour of PTO goes a lot further because they're like, oh wow, I get time off too, and
Yeah.
you get actually double benefit for the staff. So it can go further.
It really does. And you kind of have to read your team, and this doesn't work for all production incentives. It depends on kind of what it is versus the people. We do give them options too. Sometimes it's 4 hours of PTO or a half, 4 hours of straight pay bonus. So they get to make their own decisions, and we allow, they're grown-ups. We let them make their own decisions, and we don't treat them like children, or that we know best what's good for them. So that level of buy-in, even though it's a constrained freedom, it is still a bit of freedom, and that's appreciated by a lot of people.
So I'm curious, 3 practices in rural Kentucky, not Arkansas. And so you have, why the impetus of growth, right? Why not stick with one? Why grow?
Most everything I've done in life has not been by my choice. I've almost fallen into it. It's kind of crazy. I'd like to say things, it's been fortuitous accidents. The first office, I really did want to, go in and buy a practice. I came out of school. That was my goal. It was beat into my head. That's where I felt like the biggest fit was for me. Worked 2 years at a retail facility, and it was a good learning experience. Don't get me wrong. I learned how to see patients very quickly and efficiently. And so there was a lot of growth I had to do during that time. But then when I came out, I specifically sought out private practices that were hiring with the opportunity for equity, buy in, buy out, something. So I was tickled to death just to have one practice under my belt. Then a retiring optometrist approached me and said, "Hey, I'm going to be selling my practice in or closing up shop." He goes, "Do you want to buy me out?" And I said, "It sounds like a pretty good idea." Jumped through all the hoops and found a place, got it set up, it got everything all up to the loan. Like I was ready to pull the trigger. Lesson learned, we didn't hammer down the firm numbers going into it uh, as much. It was a lot of on the back end. When it came time to value the practice, that's where we were at odds. I was
Yeah.
more realistic, I would think, at the, gross revenue, looking at your EBITDA, and for those not experienced with that term, it's your earnings before interest. Oh, help me out here. What's the T?
To taxes, earnings
Like
before
earnings,
interest, tax,
taxes,
and
depreciation,
utilization.
and appreciation. Yes. Um, anyway, so it's your way of kind of calculating your practice value. Again, 60% of revenue, nice back of the napkin. Um, he was valuing his years of practice a lot higher than I was.
Oh,
Well, when he backed out, I said, I can't go any higher than that. It just doesn't generate. He said, "Well, I'm out. I'm just going to kind of coast and see my patients anyway until I'm ready to close the doors." I was already, knee deep into the situation. I said, "Well, it's a good opportunity. Let's go for it." I had already done all the work, so I pulled the trigger anyway, and it's been successful. The
nice.
third practice kind of fell into my lap. The doctor was moving on to a different type of employment situation, was wanting to sell a small boutique practice, and one of the reps I'm very friendly with. As a note, be friends with your reps. They are the biggest source of just your external information out there because they're in all the practices. Anyway, told me about this office. I said, "Sounds like a great idea." I wasn't really ready at the time, but I jumped through the hoops, bought it, and have been plugging away since. So I didn't set out to own three practices. It just kind of happened. And when the opportunity arose, I just took it. I did not say yes to every opportunity that's come up. And that is just as important as saying no is as important as saying yes. There have been a couple practices that were not a good fit for me, both from a revenue standpoint. They were older, kind of stodgy practices. They were going to need more updating and quite a bit of investment, or they were a little bit further away geographically and would have
Yep.
taken a lot more time away from not only me and my household, but also my office staff. I have to be cognizant of what their work capacities are, what they're able to generate. I don't want to set them or me up for failure. So I've had numerous opportunities to buy out of practice, some retiring docs, and they're just not good fits for me, whether it's because I just don't want to, or it's not a good deal, or maybe it's just not the right time. So knowing, knowing your current situation, being able to assess yourself without the rose colored glasses on and to be able to take stock in where you are will help you determine if the timing is correct, because a good opportunity can come up, but you just can't say yes right now. So you have to be able to make sure that's the case as well.
Yeah. That's, I think that's a big, I've heard someone say strategy is just as much what you decide not to do as it is what you decide to do.
Yes.
No,
Each one is a choice, and you just have to be
yeah.
able to make a conscious effort, a very determined choice, whether it is yes or no. And again, run the numbers. Your gut is Your gut will give you an idea of how to feel about it, but it doesn't. Your gut is dumb. You need to educate it. So don't do everything based off of the numbers because again, yeah, the numbers may look good, but it just might not feel good. So at the very least, educate your gut, run the numbers, and that will help you make a better feel decision with your gut.
Mm, I like that. That's good insight. So curious how you're dealing with some of the more common problems we're seeing nowadays with staffing. You touched on it a little bit. Can you touch on a little bit more of, especially in rural Kentucky? I imagine staffing could be a little tough.
It
Uh,
has its moments. I won't lie. In the two small towns, you know, as we say, pickings are slim. Sometimes just the number of people available to work and have the skills or qualities that you're looking for. I was very fortunate with my first office. I went from the time I bought it, I went 7.5 years with zero turnover. So I did
wow.
nothing but grow staff, and I kept everyone I had for 3/4 of a decade, and, my office manager has been with me. She started before I was employed there, so she's been at this office 10 years, going on 11. And so I think really being respectful of your staff goes a long way. It's cheaper to keep them if they're a good fit. Now, finding new staff, in a small town, word of mouth goes a long way. Most of them have been referrals from other staff, other people that
Mhm.
work for me that knows somebody that knows somebody that has a good personality. And you can train skill. Personality, you cannot teach. You can't teach, want to. It has to be kind of how they're wired. And you'll know pretty quickly, within the first 90 days, if they have that, I won't say entrepreneurial attitude, um, but they'll really care about what they do, the good work ethic. Um, I've had some staff that just were not a good fit, and I wrestled with, do I really just let them go and try to find a replacement, or do I really try to work with them and coach? Um,
Mhm.
I usually take the coaching approach
Okay.
first. I'm not the hire slow, fire fast type of mentality. Eventually, you get a reputation, especially in a smaller town.
Mhm.
And you run out of people to work with. Everybody has the opportunity to learn, to grow, even as a person.
Mm.
And sometimes it's recognizing when somebody's not in the right role. They're still a good worker, but maybe where they are is not a good fit. So you
Mm.
can train and coach and work with them. And sometimes you just got to take them warts and all. So I, they they know I care for them, and that really goes a long way.
And that's something I noticed in general business, that, optometry and healthcare in general, it's more, it's not these businesses that all of a sudden you've been around for 5 to 10 years, you're not gonna like triple your business next year, right?
Right.
Barring something really crazy happening, like an acquisition or something like that. If you just have everything stays the same, it's gonna be hard to grow the business like really fast. And so what I find there is longevity of staff, it
Mhm.
makes a difference. And having consistency helps, because the same patients see the same people. It's more of a community feel versus just a transaction.
That and the other thing to consider, it's a hell of a learning curve. I
Mhm.
mean, between all the insurance, the ins and outs of, how frames and lenses are, what categories they're in, what insurance goes what, how are things billed medically to their vision plans, etcetera. So we always start any new person, work them from the ground up. They start teching. All they have to do is kind of by rote work the patient up, do auto refraction, check the VAs, work them through, etc. Then they move up and change roles. We often cross train so that if somebody does leave, we have somebody else trained in that role to kind of move up a position and allow for the new hire to take the easier role, such as, we just moved a couple of days ago, a couple of my staff at the Mount Sterling office, and each office kind of does this uh, differently. But my main office, two two of the staff members had been in the optical sales for about 3 months, and
Mhm.
one was front desk, one was kind of general tech, float, referrals, etc. Well, they swapped roles and we moved them over. So we have people that are very fluent and efficient in the optical sales, which is a slightly different skill set. And some that have moved to the front desk. That prevents burnout. You change it up. After a while, anybody gets tired of doing the same thing year after year. So adding a little bit of variety goes a long way. It helps me make sure that the personality is a good fit for each role and helps me really kind of see how each person can blossom or do well in each position. And again, if somebody leaves because life happens, uh, it's always good to have those roles kind of filled so you're not really hurting for somebody.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious what your Kentucky actually has a pretty wide scope that you can
Yes.
practice, which is kind of cool, which is nice. Yeah, so you can do a lot there. What are you most excited about with the future of optometry and your practices? So I'll let you decide which one you want to answer first.
Excited about, there's a lot coming down the pike. From a scope standpoint, we are kind of on the upper end of what I would expect us to be able to do for quite a while, um, with lasers such as YAG capsulotomies, peripheral otomies, lumps, bumps removals, etc. That has been a really nice tool for my offices. I offer the laser procedures, and one of my associates is doing most of the lumps and bump removals. So we're able to offer that to patients that have transportation issues. They don't
Mm.
have to drive to the big cities. And so that bringing that level of care to them where it's needed and realizing that, you know, patients have their own life and needs and difficulties outside of your office that is nice to be mindful of, and they appreciate that. As far as optometry itself goes on the bigger scale, there's a few opportunities we can make, such as corneal cross-linking may be available to us now that it's FDA approved. I think certain states have some scope flexibility, if or when, but again, that's not really a large portion of the population, so that's not going to make or break a practice. Um, Same thing with the LipiFlow type of lid, uh, you know, uh, work and machines. They're more than happy to sell you plenty of those machines. I'll tell you that. Finding the right patient market that will be able to kind of handle that out of pocket to make it worthwhile can be a challenge. Again, some doctors are able to do it in a small rural setting, and some work in a bougie, more metropolitan area and struggle. So uh, that's one of those vibe checks. You have to know whether you can do it yourself. Um, it almost really doesn't matter the big fancy things that's coming down the pike. I really want to stress fundamentals. You do everything very well, and keep the patients that you have. The nice new thing, the nice shiny gee whiz objects and procedures, they're very nice and they're very beneficial to the patients if they're a good fit, but they're not going to make or break a practice. They're going to just be the icing, not the cake.
Yeah, I like that. It's like building on almost like a pyramid or foundation of like a house, right? Get that foundation right first. Focus on
Yes.
that. Where do you see folks having challenges in the foundation? What are some of the more common things that you experience yourself and what you see from other doctors?
It's consistency. It's being able to do the same thing over and over and doing it well each time. Um, as far as our MO, modus operandi, how we operate on a day-to-day level. My techs know exactly what to say the same way to each patient every time. And that consistency makes it a lot easier, especially when offering upgrades or enhancements, whether it's the Optos or, fundus photography, lens enhancements, etc. Those things have to be part of your culture. Same
Mm.
thing on the doctor side. It's the being able to be efficient, knowing your patient, being able to read the room, and knowing what their needs are quickly. Refractions, get good at refractions. If you know, my office is less than 3% remake rate on our lenses across the board. Per my lens supplier, the average is like 8%. So we're doing that really well. One, that saves us money and time. And most patients, you can find a brain tumor, but if you screw up their glasses, you're the worst doctor in the world. So that in and of itself is something to focus on. And having that level of consistency goes a long way. That's why, to circle back to other industries, fast food or, your retail food places, people go to Chili's or an Applebee's or whatever, McDonald's, no matter what town they're in, because they know what to expect and they know what they're going to get. They are consistent across the board. So if you're able to offer that, then you're leaving less room for patients to be disappointed.
I like that.
And that's where your fundamentals are.
Yeah, I think we've heard similar messages across the board. It's like, yeah, that's the consistency every time. Yeah, like how do it's funny. I asked this question to our team. It's like, hey, how do you know if you're doing like how many people get what we will call world class service at every touch point, right? And we do that. We do the first pass yield formula, right? We're like, okay, certain percentage of this layer, certain percentage here. I was like, okay, so in the end, how many people are getting it from front to end?
Yes.
Like, oh, that's not that much. I was like, yeah, because you have to be good at every single part.
Every single step. And the other thing that helps when you're dealing with consistency, and we'll take this from the doctor side of things. I wrote, well, with the help of my doctor staff, our kind of practice routines. If I have a glaucoma patient, here's how often I'm seeing our standard of care. That's where I'm looking for. Here's how often we're seeing them. Here's what we're expecting at each follow-up. Here's the kind of general frequency and the tests that are expected for their general care, with the option to throw an audible here and there. Same thing for macular degeneration and certain other conditions. How that translates into consistency as far as patient care on the back end of things, the staff knows what to expect. So if they have a glaucoma patient or a patient with glaucoma here for their 6-month follow-up, they don't have to look at the notes or the alerts. They already kind of have an idea that at this type of follow-up, we always do a visual field. We do our OCTs. They're going to do certain other tests before they get back to the room. The notes are there just to confirm, but it's consistent across each doctor, and that's just a practice consistency as a whole. And that saves a lot of staff time and reduces errors.
I like that.
Yeah.
And so I want to shift gears just a little bit. I'm kind of curious, what makes you tick, Justin? So can you share with us a story that was formative for you? Like this is really, you think back, like, yeah, that's part of the reason why I am who I am today.
Oh Lord. My biggest issue is that I can't sit still. It's a blessing and a curse. We'll go back to the automotive days. I was trained in the School of Hard Knocks, and the number one thing that was beaten to my head, repeatedly, it became a personal philosophy, is Kaizen. It's the art of continuous improvement. Whether it's running the practice or doing anything, on my personal hobbies, it's the idea that there's no such thing as perfection. You can only make small changes for the better. So it's a more realistic approach. Think of it like setting your New Year's resolutions. I ignore those. I don't do it. I refuse. I don't want to set myself up with a list of failures. I look back at what I've accomplished and see the areas that I can make a little bit better going forward. And so that I've taken, and all of I force it on my staff too. Every month at the meetings, everybody has to have one continuous improvement activity documented that they've accomplished, even if it's small, such as I moved the garbage can over a couple paces so the patients were less likely to litter or carry around. That works. So that's kind of what makes me tick, is I'm always looking for ways just to tweak and do and modify and customize and make it my own. Like for my hobbies, I've started picking up ice cream making recently, and I'm getting pretty good at it too. And each batch I take notes. How could I make this better? Is this creamy enough? Is this, what's the mouthfeel? Maybe my flavors were off. And then I give it to my wife, and she gives me a list of more things that I can improve upon.
You're like, yeah, it's good, but yeah.
which I request and respect. I appreciate that about her. So that's great.
That's interesting. You know, you do you have your staff fill out A3s as well? Do you go that far down the rabbit hole?
No, we
No?
don't go that deep. I mean, I don't want to inundate them with too much, activities. They still have, their day-to-day work to do. They just do this to make me happy. But it's beneficial in the long term. Even if they don't see it in the short term,
Mhm.
if nothing else, it also when somebody does something and you give them an attaboy, say, "Good job.
Yeah.
That was great." It really does encourage the rest of the staff too to constantly be looking for those things just to make life a little bit better around the office.
It sets that culture of curiosity.
Yes.
Like, "Hey, what could be better?"
I
Right?
I
Yeah.
like that. That's a good way of putting it. And
Yeah.
never stop being curious.
Well, it sounds like that you're kinda hardwired for that with the ice cream, the woodworking, the cars. It sounds like you got a lot of cool interest.
I have more interest than I have time available. My youngest child, he is 3 months old, and so right now sleep is a premium.
Yeah.
So if I can improve on my sleep time, that would be great, but I need to take it up with the boss right now.
Yeah. There's some things you just gotta, this too shall pass, right? That's all you
Oh,
can do.
the
This
the the days are long, but the years are short, and
that's true.
I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I'm glad I've shut the factory down. 3 is plenty.
Fair enough, fair enough. I think I share a similar sentiment to you, um, so curious, what advice would you give your younger self, knowing what you know now, coming right out of OD school?
I would tell myself to calm down. Uh, really, I was energy going nowhere. I was all over the place. I was looking for so much. It it would be, things will happen when it happens, and some things you don't have any control over. And it's okay. Be content with those type of opportunities. To the opportunity to rest. I wish I'd taken a few more of those opportunities along the way, um, and just sit down and really kind of, again, work on what I'm doing well and, reassess what I'm not doing as well as I could and to focus on really know what the important things are. That goes along with bedside manner. I came out, I was a hot shot. I thought the world of myself. And that comes with its own difficulties, along the way, including with patient care. I think as I've gotten older, I've mellowed out and I'm a little bit more open to and gracious towards patients on a personal level. It is when I speak with them, it's a lot more understanding about where they are in the world, and I don't expect them to come to me and understand everything I know. I need to go to where they are. So
Mm,
it's definitely made me a lot more caring and careful. And that in and of itself, that give a damn has been such an impact on my practice overall. Where I've actually gotten more referrals because of that. And having
mm.
that reputation and building that reputation, being able to maintain it has gone such a long way in the last few years. You know, uh, I think most of us grow up sometime around 40, give or take. So, it's okay if you're not there yet.
Yeah,
Mhm.
fair enough, fair enough. I know that feeling, so the, so, I always, one of the things I like to say is that empires aren't built by yourself, just like Rome wasn't built by yourself or in a day. Are the people that inspire you that you'd like to shout out, be like, "Hey, you know what? This person I really admire, or this person is really helpful for me." Any shout outs?
A lot of my staff, I will say that many of them have been with me through thick and thin. And my office manager has been my a valuable teammate from day one. We butt heads like brother and sister. Sometimes she is the most aggravating, and if she's listening, she knows. And the sentiment goes both ways. It's actually a really good dynamic. She's a great foil. I will come in with some wild ideas, wanting to do things a certain way, and she forces me to slow down and really vet my ideas. And there's value in that. Other staff members have been with me for a long time, and I appreciate their desire for growth, their ambition, and reward that appropriately. I couldn't do it without them. I have limited capacity, whether it's time, energy, and know-how, and I rely on these people for my overall well-being, financially and mental sometimes. So these are my favorite people as far as that goes. My wife, on the back end, she works in a different field, but when I come home, I know that picking the right partner and having picked the right partner has been a tremendous benefit. I know that if I'm having some difficulties, I can always either talk to her or she'll give me space that I need to make sure I get done what I need to get done. And it would be difficult if that wasn't the case.
And how about anyone that you like to follow or listen to in the industry that other people could also
Oh,
connect with?
I did kind of leave that out. I used to take more of an approach of many of a larger pool of responses. The ODs on finance and some of the industry forums. I'll take the advice and opinions and approaches from many different points of view and just tailor it to fit my needs. My former dean, he was an assistant dean at UPike, former dean at Nova, and the dean at UPike, since he's retired, Mike Bacigalupi, he's been a big help. He's actually lives in Lexington. He's a neighbor now. He's come along with me to evaluate a couple locations for my third office. We're trying to look and move, and I've been able to bounce a few ideas off of him, and he's been a great help on the personal level, and he's tried my ice cream. He said it's pretty good.
He said it's good. So he's so good. Yeah.
Actually, the other thing, it's outside of the industry, but I love a podcast. It is How I Built This by Guy Raz.
It's a great one.
The advice line segments are my absolute favorite. Those, I will listen to an episode of that and it gets the wheels turning so hard. And so that, even though many of the things don't apply directly to an optometry practice, it lets me pick and choose, again, what parts are salient and that I can use and look at ways from a different perspective. And that has been just so helpful.
I love that. Yeah. And if folks want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Really just holler at me on my email. jcoleman471@gmail is the easiest way. I'll respond to anything. I'm not big on social media yet. I'm still one of those Luddites. I have a Facebook and I'm using it quite a bit less. I'm not really on the Insta too much or anything else because I don't need to take that many pictures. It's all going to be Jeep parts and pictures of trees. So after a while, you kind of, it becomes repetitive. But shoot me an email.
Perfect. We'll put that information in the show notes too for folks.
Sure.
So thank you again, Dr. Justin Coleman, for being a guest on the show.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And my one takeaway from this is get good at the basics and be consistent with it. That is the foundation that your house, that your practice is built on. And without that, you can't do the other stuff like equipment, practice, anything else. It's the foundation is so critical. And thank you again, audience. And if you learned something or laughed, please share the podcast with a friend and make sure that you subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you see the link at the bottom of the show notes to book a meeting, I'd be happy to send you a copy of my book, Optometry Redefined. Thanks again, Justin, for being on the show. This has been another exciting episode of Optometrists Building Empires. We'll see you next time. That's a wrap on another episode of Optometrists Building Empires. Thanks for joining. For show notes and more, visit buildingempires.live. This show is proudly sponsored by My Business Care Team. My Business Care Team was born out of staffing challenges my wife and I faced together, managing multiple optometry locations. We refined our approach at Classic Vision Care and now offer our expertise to others. If you're experiencing challenges with staffing and you'd like to set up a discovery call, we'd be happy to help you and connect you with the right resources. We'll see you next time.